Yes, it's the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. And today's show, sponsored by Cheshire Impact, on a mission to help you maximize your marketing automation and your CRM. CheshireImpact.com. Boom. Now, my guest today. We have scheduled and finally it's going to happen. And I got to say, I'm super excited because my guest today, I've actually worked with her for a long time actually at Cheshire Impact. And she's amazing. She's worked with hundreds of clients, helping them implement marketing automation, helping them take to the next step, helping out map out their process, helping align their sales teams. Title, she is a senior revenue optimization consultant. She's also the team leader of the client consulting success group. My gosh, she is a revenue optimization wizard. Ladies and gentlemen, Andrea Frasier. How you doing?
Oh my gosh, I'm good. I feel like there's like fake audience woo in the background for my introduction.
We'll just put in a huge roar of a crowd.
I think so, yeah.
So everyone listening will be like, oh, live studio audience. This is kind of like the Big
sure.
Bang Theory.
It's a sitcom. Yeah, exactly.
It is it can be a sitcom sometimes. And just like with sitcoms, we have a theme, unless it's what Friends, where it's a show about nothing. This is not a show about nothing. This is a show about maximizing marketing. And one of the things in our roadmap, we had this thing called the CSI. It's how you maximize your marketing automation. It tells you don't just go blast out emails to people. There's steps to take. And so January, we talked about knowing your buyer. Then we talked about setting up your metrics so you can see what's working and what's not working. More steps came after that. And finally, we're on the fun step, which is nurturing, actually using marketing automation, actually using your email, your sales team, your marketing team to nurture your prospects, nurture your buyers into that final step across the finish line. So that's the theme. And I'm super excited. And Andrea, you are the first for this theme because honestly, you and Cheshire Impact knows the most about nurturing from all these 1,800 clients we've helped set up marketing automation. We've seen clients do it the right way, the wrong way. So on the note, we'd like to start off the show by smashing myths, by like punching things in the face. A bogus strategy, or maybe just things that people think is the right strategy when they first come into it. And then we teach them, we set the record straight. So what do you want to smash today?
Oh man, I mean, I love to say that everyone's perfect and that they're all doing everything right, but really number one, and it just gets at all of us, I think, is the monthly newsletter. Clients come and they're like, yep, we're totally nurturing. We're doing a great job with nurturing. And I ask exactly, how are you doing that? And it's one monthly newsletter, the same one to everyone. Once a month. And that's nurturing.
Oh, that's gross because they probably have, you have multiple buyers usually, different personas.
Multiple buyers, different people, different things they care about, different pain points. And not all of them care about what you have to say in your monthly newsletter. And it's heartbreaking to say that, but it's so true. And I would say that's definitely number one.
That's number one. So newsletters aren't it. Do they serve any purpose?
I mean, they definitely can, right? There's nothing wrong with having a monthly newsletter to serve updates. But when you just think about how many other great ways there are to like actually nurture, and, a lot of times newsletters are just about you and your company and what you really think everyone should care about, when actually it has nothing to do with your buyer and what they care about. Right. So it's not at its fundamental fact anything to do with nurturing. So.
But what's interesting is you can do that with the most basic. You could send a newsletter with Outlook,
Exactly.
Put all your prospects and buyers and customers, and hopefully in BCC and not in CC. But you put them all in there, you just blast it out there, and they're going to probably treat it the same as if you're paying lots of money for a marketing automation tool. It's like there's so much technology these days. Why not use it? And you have the ability to make it feel like it's one-on-one nurturing,
Right. Well, when you get emails in your inbox, the ones as you're going through, it's so easy to swipe and delete now. It's just so hard to say that the only thing you're doing with nurturing is sending out a monthly newsletter with probably the subject line, this month's newsletter. Yeah. It's just such an easy one for people to delete, and it's not about them. They don't have time. There's so many things going on. I mean, it's just not the best bang for your buck with everything else that you can be doing and all the tools you have out there to use.
Yeah, that's so true. I think I once heard it said that people delete first in their inbox. So you kind
Yeah.
of go through and purify, and I thinking back to even my own, because I've also heard somewhere that says like don't read an email twice. Like if you can handle it, read the email, take care of it. The easiest thing to take care of is a newsletter, because you're like, I don't have time to read this right now. I'll read the next one, and then you just,
Hmm.
for me, it's like swipe one of the directions, whichever it is. It's like muscle memory now. Just it's gone. And then those other ones that are maybe more personalized nurtures, I may have to evaluate those or check those out. So at least they get a look, as
Right.
opposed to the newsletters. And you know what? You tend to run out of stuff too.
Yeah. You're going to repeat yourself every month. And so then
Yeah.
then it becomes a quarterly newsletter. But even then, subject line, quarterly newsletter. I'm someone who hasn't bought your product or your service. I get to my inbox in the morning and there's a million messages. Am I going to get to your quarterly newsletter? No, I'll maybe catch up with you on social, do something else, hope that it comes out some other way, but not just the newsletter. Something more needs to be there, I think.
Newsletter isn't it, and I've
Yeah.
mentioned this before. I've told the story. I used to write for a travel magazine in New Hampshire. New Hampshire only has so many. I mean, it's beautiful. I love living here, but in terms of like press like things to write about in a full color magazine, there's only so many things. I
You're
mean,
going to repeat yourself.
you're going to repeat yourself, but if you're trying not to repeat yourself, you got to start going to the bottom of the barrel. And I started out writing about hockey lessons and visiting the four corners of the state and all sorts of craziness, and it ended up being, a year or two later, writing about the model train museum, which is okay,
Great.
but that's
I'm
not
sure great. The
exactly.
quilting. Don't you have quilting museum?
Yeah, quilting meetings probably at the Shaker Village. Oh,
Yeah.
this is our 8-part series about the Shaker Village. By the way, Shaker Village, don't buy the cookies. They have no sugar. Apparently, it's against the religion.
Oh,
No sugars. I had one when I was 6. I was traumatized eating a cookie with no sugar. But yeah, so you run out of things. So what happens is people's best content and their best creative ideas happens the first 5 or 6 episodes or 5 or 6 articles or issues of their newsletter. And then what do? Now you're under the gun. You got to just sort of drag
mm-hmm.
stuff up. I was chatting earlier with Samantha Stone, and she was saying, look, don't just do, be consistent, but not for the sake of consistency. If you have nothing to
Right.
say, don't force people to eat your garbage.
Well, and
So
what kind of call to actions can you have in a newsletter other than read the full press release here? You're not going
true.
to get a lot of click-through rates, engagement. And just for me, I mean, clients just get so disappointed. They see the click-through rates and the engagement on these newsletters, it's dismal. So I think the
Yeah,
best thing they can be doing is other cooler, still easy, not super difficult nurturing that's going to really move them forward and give them some momentum that they all really want to see.
that's true. And you spend a lot more time too doing a newsletter because there's probably like
Oh, yeah.
5 or 6 articles or more.
Rendering
And
tests.
rendering tests every time because it's new content. It's just not automated. It's just not, when we talk about marketing automation, capture, nurture, automate, you're not automating. You're not nurturing really. It's not speaking to them, and you're not doing it on an automatic way in an evergreen way. So, okay, so we beat this thing up. Newsletters,
Yep.
it's OG, it's old school. They have some purpose, but man, you should be nurturing them first. So paint a picture of what the ideal nurture is, and then we'll bust some more myths.
Yeah, I mean, the ideal nurture for me, it can be anything. I mean, there's
Yeah.
so many options out there. If you Google lead nurturing, you're going to be overwhelmed. And I would say it really comes down to, are you speaking to what your buyers care about and what they're interested in and where they're
Yes.
at in the buyer's journey and who they are, what their interests are in their role? I think it's definitely a lot more personal, which is why the newsletter's a little bit defunct.
Yeah.
Um, but it can be anything. That's the cool thing. There's so many opportunities to do it better. I think that's what makes the newsletter not so effective. Not that it's terrible. It's just, wow, just wait till you crack open the egg of lead nurturing and you're going to realize you're going to have too many ideas and you're going to have to weed them down to get better, more effectively nurturing.
Right. That makes sense. That makes sense. All right, let's smash some more things and then, probably even just talk about the basics or just even rehash what is the core elements of a nurturing campaign or drip campaign.
Absolutely.
Anything else to smash?
Okay, another one would be, marketing comes to us. The marketing team has developed this super sophisticated nurture idea. They've completely doped it out, but
Oh
they've done
yeah.
it all themselves in the silo. They
Oh.
haven't involved other teams. We haven't talked to other departments, the sales team, the product development team, the delivery team, who have better insights into the perspective, the questions,
Right.
the goals of the audience you're talking to. So I think a lot of times people come to us, and the more advanced clients will say, okay, this is what we've built out. Here it is. It's a series of 45 different engagement
Wow.
programs or
Sure.
series of emails. And this is how it works. And it looks great on the flow diagram, but it turns out it was just developed by marketing in a silo, and it wasn't a more collaborative process. I would say that's kind of a big myth, is that you can just throw it on paper and make it so.
Yeah, like develop it in a silo all by your lonesome, like
Yeah,
get a bag of Skittles, hole up in the corner, just make your own nurture campaign and not involve other people that are in that journey, the other folks on that team. Well, it makes sense to include sales. It can seem kind
absolutely.
of risky, but like what kind of things would you not get by not including sales? Would you just miss the mark on the audience or
Well, if you think about sales, I mean, their whole premise, and this goes to say, no matter what kind of selling, and there's tons of different
yeah, yeah.
strategies and ways that this is done now, but sales, their primary function is building relationships with these people, right?
Right.
So they are the ones, like marketing, who I guess historically or stereotypically would have the role of lead nurturing. Yes, they have some awareness of the audience. They might have done, a great buyer persona process and gone through developing these buyer personas, but sales are the ones that are having these conversations day to day, usually
Sure.
interacting, maybe even face to face with this audience. I think it's just doing yourself a disservice if you're not at least pulling a little bit out of their intimacy with that audience and what they know.
Interesting. You're right. I guess we can kind of forget that nurturing is like a sales tactic. It's the idea of reaching out to someone on a regular basis, giving them some value,
Connecting with them, like knowing
connecting.
what gets them, what doesn't
Yeah.
get to them, to
Building
help drive the
trust.
sale.
Yeah, building
Right.
trust, educating, maybe having a little fun along the way, and
Exactly.
on a regular basis. And then all we're doing
Exactly.
is just sort of duplicating that and sort of assisting that effort in an automated way in marketing automation. It's not like rocket science, but since sales has been doing it historically, it might make sense to, rather than reinvent the wheel, to your point, ask them what's up, see what kind of impact they've had, what kind of input they have. Interesting. I was doing an on-site with one of our customers, and early on in the process, we were trying to figure out different personas and who they're going after to see what's the first segment, who's the first persona we should go after, who's most important, and then what kind of terms do they really, what sort of lights them up, like, oh yeah, I'll take the call. And marketing had their ideas, but
Hmm.
someone's brilliant idea was to invite the SDR guy in, or one of the best SDR, probably the most talkative guy. And
Right.
this is not even the sales person. So in the world of sales, your SDR or your biz dev person can be kind of low in the totem pole. I mean, it's like an entry
Hmm.
level dial for dollars kind of thing. So they invited him in there. But you know what? He knew more than everyone. He knew
Yep.
more than all the marketing people, even the sales people that just received quality leads. This guy knew. He actually said, look, there's a couple things when I call people, I leave them a voicemail or I send them an email. If I know that they're experiencing some of these particular issues because they filled out the form, they looked at a white paper with that topic, I will include that topic in there. And one was like an audit, another one was like if you're being acquired. There's certain trigger points that this company was perfectly equipped to help them out with. And he said, if I include that in the subject, or if I speak to that and how we can help them with that, they call me back right away. And so he was
Right.
like, so anytime I can get this information, it's really helpful. And we're like, well, dang, we got to ask this question. Like, in
Right.
every form possible, do you have any of these following 5 things happening to you right now? Because we'll reach out, and we made the phone number just sort of like magically, the box appeared if you said yes, you did have one of those things. We could call you and help you out. But you're right. There's so much value to including sales, and not even reinventing the whole thing. Like, oh, let me just
Right.
put the thing in a box. They've already been doing it. They're just maybe not doing it efficiently or automated. So
Exactly. And it doesn't have to just
interesting.
be emails, right? Like I think that's the
Oh,
other thing,
true.
is that in the silo of marketing, that doesn't just mean that they came up with it and didn't consider any other teams, but it's not just in those pre stages to when you hand over a lead to sales that nurturing is valuable, right? I mean, think of all the times that you're handing over leads to sales
Sure.
and they have a long list, that same, and I love the SDR, BDR perspective too. I think,
Yeah.
especially on on-sites, it's like they
Oh
come in
yeah.
and they have this nugget of gold that like we didn't even expect to come out. And it's crazy how that works. But I
Totally.
mean, there's so much nurturing that can be done there. And nurturing isn't necessarily that marketing email that happens before the lead handoff.
True.
It's emails afterwards, it's conversations afterwards, interactions at trade show booths, it's events. All of those things are leading up and are a tactic in nurturing. So I think, that same myth of it just being a marketing capacity that marketing can create in their own silo, I think it also can extend beyond that handoff to sales. And I think that's another
Interesting.
part of that myth, is that
Smash that myth, Andrea. Smash it.
boom, that's the biggest one, because there's almost more value when we extend it through the very, at least in the beginning parts of that sales process, when we've done the
Right.
handoff. I would argue it's almost more valuable there sometimes than it can be in that initial brand awareness, top of mind awareness type nurturing that you typically hear about in marketing.
Sure. Sure. So what we're saying is don't stop nurturing. Well, I can see why you're saying don't stop nurturing when the handoff happens to sales.
Right.
But sometimes sales gets a little protective. They're like, okay, it's my
They
lead
do.
now. I own it. I have the con. Back away from the controls of the submarine. This is my boat now. They're like, I got this. But then what do? I'm
They don't
super
got it.
generalizing, and so I'm gonna get like hate tweets later from salespeople. But a lot of times, the bad salespeople don't even call the person, and so they're like,
Well,
hands
even if
off.
they do, I mean,
Yeah.
you only have so many hours in a day, right? So like, no
See,
hate
that's a
on
better
sales.
answer. I'm all hating on sales, and
Right.
you're right.
No,
Help
I
them
mean,
make
there's
them more
only so
efficient.
many
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah.
And if they're really, they always say sales, what's your primary goal? You really want to prioritize. And any sales manager will tell
Oh
you, I
yeah.
want my sales reps focusing on pipeline
Yep.
and deals with the best propensity to close.
Hell
And
yeah.
so anytime I go on site with clients, and this is the most common thing, right? Sales is like, nope, it's ours at that point. I want dibs on that. And I think there's this idea that they're admitting defeat if they let marketing come back in and do some nurturing from
Right.
in that process.
Right. That's a
But I
good
would
point.
argue, like, no, let them help you, right? Because you don't have time for that. You have that other one that's stage pre-closing. You need to focus on them and what they need, not necessarily those ones that they're still asking their boss's boss's boss and all of that. I think there's a lot of opportunity right there for nurturing, and it's not giving up ownership or admitting defeat. It's being effective at nurturing.
That's really it. You like highlighted this idea that one of the challenges between sales and marketing and aligning those two, or marketing and sales, if you think linearly, or technically linearly, it's like marketing, sales, marketing, sales, sales,
Yeah.
sales, 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 marketing, back and forth, is that idea of ownership.
Mhm.
Not only ownership, but whose fault is it, or did I drop the ball, or whoever owns. If it goes back to marketing, that means it was either bad lead, shame on marketing, or bad sales rep, shame on sales. But maybe they just weren't ready.
Yeah. And
So
that's usually it, right? It's
yeah,
like they get that far. The BDR talks to them. The BDR is usually, again, going back to the BDR, props to any BDRs listening.
yep,
Um, I mean, a lot of the time they're not ready. And so, I would argue that it's more effective to identify that early, say, oh, not ready, have nurturing set up specifically for those audiences, knowing that there's a large subset of people who get that far, but they're just not quite there yet. That's the sweet spot. I really do think so.
yeah. I know you do a lot of work in this arena where you'll go on these on sites, and it's kind of funny because I'm like, I'm going to ask you questions that I may already know the answer to, but I want people to get the sense of what you do. And then we can extract some of the takeaways and the best practices. There's a thing that we do where it's revenue optimization. We go in, and you go in on an on site, and you help companies with huge sales teams and marketing teams, or huge or not, just sales and marketing. You help them align, but that seems like quite the feat. It's almost like walking into a WWE ring. So tell me more about that. I mean, you fly in to do an on-site, and how does this all go down, and how do you approach that?
Yeah, initially it's a lot of listening. It's hearing out exactly what's happening now, but also hearing out like what's not going so well. So a lot of like the first couple hours or so, like you said, I mean, I've seen varying degrees of tension in the room because I do
Yeah.
encourage it to be marketing and sales. It can't be effective to just talk to the marketing team to really
Right.
set things up for success. And it's really throwing it all out there. So
Yeah.
it's setting up the expectations of nothing we're saying in this room is, throwing shade at someone intentionally, but it's more
Right.
what's going well, what are we doing now, what's not going well, where are we getting stuck, and where are the inefficiencies.
Hmm.
And part of that is not only mapping out, okay, how do you get new leads? Okay, great, thanks marketing. Then what happens to them? What kinds of email? Oh, you're sending a monthly newsletter. Interesting. Moving on, like,
Right.
how are you qualifying? When are you sending them over to sales? And then from there, what happens then? Like, does it go to a BDR? What are the scenarios that play out when you have a BDR conversation?
Right.
What if they're not quite ready, but they're kind of ready, but they're not quite there? That's usually that weird middle ground, like I said, that's, in my opinion, kind of the sweet spot for some nurturing opportunity for sure. And
Yeah.
kind of just pulling down the barriers of it. It's not a marketing against sales. It's, let's set this up so that we all have our accountabilities and we know what we have ownership of. And I say we,
Right.
meaning the marketer, the BDR, the sales rep, the
Sure.
sales manager, and making sure that all of those accountabilities and metrics line up properly. Because
Right.
oftentimes marketing has to deliver X number of leads to sales and then they're done, right? They've done their
Sure.
nurturing to get to that point, but then that's their only metric. And sales is expected to run with it from there.
Hmm.
But there's feedback loops in there usually that end up being the sweet spot for lead nurturing and for really bringing people across the finish line in terms of revenue.
I've been with you on a couple of these, and you do a great job of asking these questions. And to your point, it's almost like the questions, they can highlight things without saying, marketing, you suck at this, sales, you suck at this. Hey, what happens this? It's almost like the what if. You're asking along the whole journey, along that whole process, what happens here? Okay. Well, what if this? What if that? Okay, now how about here? And you're just being very deliberate about all the way along the way. And it just brings so many things to people's minds where they're like, wow, actually we have nothing for that particular, or
Right.
maybe we'll go off in this direction. What kind of, I'm sure it gets kind of intense, but the way you ask that, I mean, have you had just really, have you had like marketing and sales being like super
Yes.
aggro with each other? That's like
I
people.
have. It's usually very passive aggressive, which is almost worse, where you can feel
Well,
it,
that's
but
kind of
no
what
one's
marketers
actually
are, though, right?
right. Well, I don't know. It's usually on the sales side where it's like,
Really?
but what's going to happen here? And it's like, you guys, let's stop for a second. Do you actually have time to follow up with all 400 leads, even if they're not that great? True or false? And oftentimes, there have been situations where it's like little daggers being thrown on both
Yeah.
sides, like marketing saying, well, I don't think we'd have a problem if our leads were progressing, which means, you know,
Yeah.
subtext,
We're throwing them
if
against the
sales did
wall.
stuff with leads that we send them. So I think a lot of it is like making them realize that by handing back and forth and doing, like you said, it's marketing, sales, 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 marketing, sales, instead of marketing, sales, done.
Yeah.
I think having them realize that they're mutually helping each other by the end of it, and it has been rockier roads on some on-sites than others, it's, oh, this could actually help us. Because on the sales side, it's like, you're right, I don't have time to follow up with all of these. You're telling me that if I provide these details, marketing could run with that and could be keeping us top of mind without me calling them or setting myself a task every 2 days. And I say,
Sure.
yes. And on the marketing side, they're saying, you mean leads that we're sending over there could actually start moving along and,
You
we could
can
help
actually
that
call them.
process more? Yeah. And it ends up being like, oh, we all are really in this together, kumbaya, whatever song you want to sing, but it's crazy how it works like that.
That's a. It's so cool you get to experience that, because it's like you're experiencing people's aha moments. You're like
Mhm.
the Tony Robbins of sales and marketing alignment. You're
Well,
like,
they start geeking out towards the end where you almost have to reel them back in. It's like, oh, we could send this. And that's kind of
oh
the other
yeah,
big thing is like, don't go too overboard. Let's start
yeah,
small. Let's
baby
refine as
steps.
we go. But man, by like 2:00, if I'm doing a full day on site, get there at 8. From 8 to 9:30, it's awkward.
Ooh,
From 9:30 to 10, we're
pressure.
really dishing it out. We have lunch. And then at like 2:30, it's like almost having to reel in like, these are all great ideas, but let's do a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. all of these things can't be done at once, but it is really cool to see. I feel lucky I
Right.
get to.
Yeah, totally. Just remove the Red Bull from the lunch cart so that people aren't going off the
Right.
deep
Well,
end.
except I might need that, but yes.
Actually, yeah. Like that one time we were in that room that was really hot. It's like we're doing this process and on site, and it was hot yoga inside that room. Uh,
Well, and
and-
you like to like walk around, so you were like really sweating it out.
oh yeah, that's why I wear a blazer.
Yeah, exactly. No white shirts.
Overshare. Right. So what do you think it is? Because you facilitate this really cool connection between two different departments who are literally on the same mission. They just don't know it. What are you facilitating, you think? Like what's the magic? Where does it come from in
I think just
those
making nurturing not just sound like it's for marketing. You know what I mean? Like making it more attainable by all groups.
Mm,
And as much as I can, like by giving ideas and use cases and my own experience with clients, and pointing out that some of the best nurturing is the stuff that maybe traditionally sales feels like that should be them doing, but really it makes sense for them all to be supporting the same cause. I really think it's actually defining nurturing and not making it some weird hokey marketing term that marketers tweet about on the daily. It's not a hashtag. It's something more than that.
it's a brilliant thought. If marketing is confused by nurturing, and we know from our CSIs that most of them aren't doing it. A lot of people aren't doing nurturing yet being the key word, because we want them to do it. We're going to help them do it. We're going to teach them how to do
Right.
it. But if most of marketing is a little confused about what nurturing is, no doubt sales is,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
No doubt they're like, I don't know what weirdness marketing's up to, but I'm going to go buy my own sales app that does the exact same thing and just duplicate
Or
efforts with
15
marketing.
different. Right. They're going to
Right,
get 15 different tools that do kind of the same thing, but it wasn't defined as nurturing.
right,
But it
right.
is.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. So no doubt they would know what it is. So it's almost like you're selling it internally. We're not, say selling it, but making sure everyone's on the same page with what's possible,
Hmm.
and what's in it for them too. Maybe marketing and sales. I often said that, if you align everything to revenue, if everyone's on the same page, look, we're all trying to get these deals closed. So, like I'm not just going after my lead metric. I think lead metrics is, I mean, it's great to track, but it's one of those things that can really distract marketing to the point where we get so hung up on leads, we create different kinds of leads, and then we geek out on leads, and then sales is like, that's cool, I don't really care because,
Right. Or like a
yeah,
lot of it's just that metrics are set up incorrectly, right? So
mm,
if marketing's metric is lead generation, when it gets close to the end of the month and they're not close to that number, what are they going to do? They're going to lower their requirements for a qualified lead and throw them over there, which
right,
then stacks on top of a BDR whose metrics is appointment set, which
right,
does that make sense? Because what are they going to do towards the end of the month? And usually, like you said earlier, like the ways that they're paid and like how high they're up on the totem pole, their propensity to just say, okay, well, I'm just going to set appointments whether I think these people are really ready or not. I mean, by the time we get to sales, no wonder sales feels that way, right? Because they
right,
do get bogus leads. And if you're just to like shift it completely and say, let's kind of eliminate some of that and make sure that our metrics make sense and that nurturing is a shared endeavor with the goal of generating revenue, then we're eliminating a lot of those reasons that sales had the bad impression in the first place. So I think a lot of it too is still providing, like, not making it so kumbaya where there's not actionable metrics and people know what they're responsible and
right.
accountable for, because a lot of it is accountability, is making sure that the
Interesting.
KPIs that are set up in such a way that marketing is not influencing the BDR's team's ability to succeed, and the BDRs aren't in control of the destiny of the sales reps' ability to succeed. Once all of those barriers are taken out of it, it really pulls down the competitive nature of it and makes it a
Mm,
little bit more, we're all in it together, let's do this. But here are my metrics. Here's my dashboard that shows me my metrics. Here are the feedback loops that do go back to marketing, because that's a good idea. Marketing, and when I say marketing, I usually mean automated through a marketing automation tool that we've all come up with together in
right.
terms of the messaging and the series and cadence of those messages. And then honestly, it's so easy after that because we all understand that it's like, okay, yeah, we're doing that. And I'm
Yeah.
helping in these ways.
That's really cool. I don't know if you have any stories of experiences like that happening. I think one that I have that comes to mind is I was in a similar kind of thing like this before it was really formalized, and I was sort of sitting down with everyone, and marketing was there as we are, and
Yeah.
then sales is like,
They're ready
I
to
don't
go.
I don't got time for this. Sales is like, so it was one person from sales. It was the leader. It was, I think it might have been the VP. Now we got VPs of marketing, directors, all the coordinators on the marketing side, but the VP of sales, he comes in, he's checking his watch. It's like a commercial.
Checking his phone.
He's
Yep.
like, you got 5 minutes, So, okay, cool. Let's just talk about, what the benefits of nurturing are, what this looks like, and how it benefits the sales team and gets some quality leads and grading and scoring and all this stuff. By the end of that, a little tiny bit of time, he had moved his calendar around so he could stay. And he pinged a couple people on his team to come join the meeting, and was like in. I mean, have you experienced anything like that? Or
I mean, every time. I can't
every
even tell
time?
you.
Yeah,
Every single
that's
time. I
cool.
mean, sometimes there's more people that come, but they have their laptops. They're planning to zone out for it to mostly
Yeah,
be about marketing. They've gone through practices like this before, right? They've had another consultant come in and
yeah.
like give them the see what they assume to be the same song and dance.
Like a really
But
big, expensive consulting group they paid millions of
yeah,
dollars for.
right. They wear suits, like
Yeah.
the whole should be, and I don't know. Every time, I guess the craziest story I have really is similar to what you said when the BDR comes in. It's when I pulled up some numbers, right? Because this was a really tough sales manager. He wasn't
Ooh,
going to have it all. He's like, marketing's been delivering crap leads for years. And
yeah, I'm sure he said
my
crap
team's
too.
cold calling. I bought this awesome tool. Let me tell you about it, which is
Yep.
the same tool that everyone's developed, which there are some great tools out there. No shade on that. But essentially, he was saying that his team's doing their own rogue marketing. To which I then pulled a report to show how often one particular, and I pulled a couple of examples, were getting conflicting messaging, and how often marketing was sending a
Oh,
message and then
wow.
sales was sending like the same message or a different message like a second or two later, and kind of put it up on a graph compared to their opt-out rate and the size of their database dwindling the more this happened.
Oh,
And I
no.
think it made him realize, like, oh, we are competing with ourselves, right? And it
Yikes.
wasn't fun to do that, but it was like the last straw, right? I had tried all my other tricks and questions, like you said, to try to break down the barrier. And it was proving that, like, y'all are messaging to these people way too much.
Yeah.
If we can just optimize what's being said when, with some relevant nurturing and some process behind what that is and what that looks like and who's owning it and how the system's set up to support it, you're going to see success. And that's all it
Right.
took, right? And then I
Huh.
threw in the part about, and then your sales team could focus on just closing all of these deals. Again, another report, click
Yeah.
presentation. All of these
Shazam.
deals that are stuck in this first stage of your opportunities. And no sales manager wants to see a pipeline report where
Van
the
up?
funnel has
Oh,
this at the
right.
top and
Oh,
this at the
gee.
bottom.
Yeah. You just framed it for him, and it sounds like got the picture, and then
It was good.
they're on the path. They're on the path to fixing it up. That's really cool. We could probably go back and forth with thousands of stories. I love to kind of narrow it down and say, okay, someone isn't nurturing right now, and maybe they're doing a newsletter, maybe not. It doesn't really matter if they are. Where do they start? Where do they start with nurturing? If someone doesn't have any nurturing, where would you take them first? And then what do you set up? And I know
Yeah,
there's always the asterisk of different families and different companies, different ways about things. But that being said, is there a particular path you take people down to develop their best nurturing?
absolutely. I think it really comes down to what you're doing in the present, right? If you are an organization, you're doing a lot for those brand new
Yeah.
leads that come into your system. So top of funnel, you're killing it, right? You have
Yep.
all this stuff that's going out. I think there's usually opportunity to tighten that up a bit more, to make it more intentional,
Sure.
make it more about the buyer. So using what you already have and what you might be just sending out in blast and mentioning in your newsletter, setting it up more intentionally into programs, maybe by persona, maybe it's by the exact stage that they're at. That's an
Okay.
easy win because it's
Right.
content you already have. If you're not doing that yet, if you don't have anything, I mean, that would be a great place to start. if you're already doing that, I think really then there's still, I mean, that's very basic. I think it's extending, like, where's a group of your audience that you feel hasn't been communicated with in a long time? And you can pull reports that
Hmm.
tell you who hasn't received an email, who hasn't engaged. That is another just like low hanging fruit. So I say in general, it's really, don't make it overly complicated, right? We're not here to create 45 different programs that feed into each other and have 15 different iterations based on specific job title. But what's a segment of your audience that you think there's a lot of opportunity to uncover, and building a nurture for them kind of as a pitching point or momentum gathering function to
Sure.
more exciting nurturing down the road.
So got it. So you're picking the best segment you can possibly go after, and then are you building all sorts of branches and decision trees right away, or
You're keeping
one
it
email,
simple.
two emails? Yeah. I mean, it's like you could look at like the Gigantor with all the different paths and different emails, but it all started somewhere. So how do you
Exactly. I would
start?
say it starts in a series, a linear series, even
Sure.
of send an email, right? And there's a lot of different strategies and
Yeah.
ideas out there that would tell you different things. But at its sense, like a linear, there's nothing wrong with a linear
Sure.
drip series of emails of send an email, wait a month, send another email, wait a month. Maybe it's less time depending on
Sure.
how much they're engaging. And, it's not a set it and forget it thing. You're not going to set up the perfect engagement program, drip program right away and then walk away, collect your check every 2 weeks, tell
Right.
your boss you're working hard because you're sending all these
Woo!
cool reports of all the emails that go out.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely some refinement that goes into it, but there
Huh.
is absolutely nothing wrong with starting with just a linear drip, send an
Love
email,
that.
wait, send an email, wait until they hit, whatever lead qualification rule you have for handing them to sales. And if we're talking about nurturing beyond that, what are we expecting? What's the objective of this nurturing program or series? Putting emails in place, monitoring and tweaking as
Monitoring.
needed.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, not overthinking it. Because the
Right.
whole point was just to make sure they're touched. Now, you want to fine tune and improve and optimize the content you're sending so you're not annoying. You're not sending garbage,
Right.
sending something helpful to the buyer. But do that. It's like do that once a month to your point, or every other week.
And you don't
Whatever.
have to make it every lean at once, too. I feel like sometimes clients
Sure.
will come to us and they'll have like, okay, I want to start this nurture program. This is how I want it. Send email one, wait a day and a half. If they're wearing a green shirt and they are a sales role and they're using their mobile device to open this email, send
Right.
this one. If they're wearing a blue shirt, they are a female and they're a marketing role, send this other one. And I
Right.
and I always tell them like, great, conceptually, we're thinking in the right direction, right? Because marketing automation and Salesforce and CRM is so powerful. Absolutely. Can that be done? Sure thing.
Sure.
Is that what's going to make you successful? No. So I always tell people start small.
Yep.
If all you want is engagement, then you don't need all those bells and whistles necessarily. Definitely be speaking to your buyer. Always have your buyer top of mind. I think you've covered that in other podcasts, but
Sure.
just be delivering them messaging with the idea that you want to educate them. And then you're doing just fine. And you can always get fancier as you go.
Right, right. And I think, to your other point, it's your best content. I mean, we all hate it on
Mm-hmm.
newsletters because, let's be honest, this is a hardcore marketing show. We're going to tell you the truth. The truth,
Right.
people, is that that's not nurturing. That's that's something. It's an activity, and I hope it's a great one, but that's not nurturing, and it's time to nurture. So evergreen content that answers a question for your buyer now and 4
Mm-hmm.
months from now. It's like the best articles you would have written in that newsletter. Put those in your drip campaign. Give someone,
Don't give it all away at once.
yeah, you might as well stagger it out, and it keeps you top of mind. So if they say, one of the biggest things I've heard too, and this happens when people try to explain what one of the values of marketing automation is, that oftentimes your lead will say, I'm ready. Everything indicates yes. They go to sales. They get on the phone with sales. And they're like, call me in 6 months, And sales doesn't know if that, no one really knows if that's real or if that's like a brush off. And I was once talking to a guy,
Probably a line.
it could be a line. It could be a line. I was talking to a guy from Europe, I think like Sweden or something. It's kind of a jerk. Nothing on Sweden, but he was very direct. And one of his frustrations when he came to the U.S. in the sales role was that he never knew what was what, because he said we're all so nice over here. No one wanted to tell you just flat out no. And he's like, I'd actually rather have that so I can stop wasting my time on you. The person that says call me back in
Sorry.
6 months, I'm going to call you back in 6 months, and you're still going to tell me. And I'm guilty of that. I do that all the time. I don't tell me,
I do. I'm from the
you
South.
know.
I'm like, oh yeah, your product's great. Call me in 9 months.
Maybe Q3. This would be a great project to tackle.
Yeah, let me
Rather than
pass you
saying,
off to my CEO.
yeah, this is not going to work out, sales guy or gal.
Yeah. And then just avoid the calls. Like I'm guilty, I have to say. I think a lot of people
Yeah,
are.
I've had that recently. There's a couple of people I've had to put on. Yeah, sorry if hey, if you listen to this podcast and you heard and you're trying to sell me something, that it gives you bonus points for sure. But the point was that these people tell you call me in 6 months, and whether they're sincere or not, ideally sales then puts a reminder to call them in 6 months. Hopefully they do, but they call that the danger zone, because what ends up
Yeah.
happening is, cue the Top Gun music. Yeah, at some point we'll get like NPR level production here, and I'll say danger zone. It'll be like Top Gun music behind it.
Along with the applause.
Yes, and the applause. Oh, every time you say something, you'll have a laugh track too.
Yes.
But the idea would be it's the danger zone, because typically if they are serious, not actually 6 months. We underestimate what we can get done in 1 month. So oftentimes that 6 months turns into a fraction of it. Like, hey, 2 months later, and we've got some real evidence. If anyone's interested, we've got physical evidence of this, where actual
Screenshots, the whole
emails,
thing.
screenshots,
Yeah.
everything, where people are like, hey, I did everything I want, and I'm ready to buy again. And it was like 2 months later. Now,
And it's because why? It's because we were
because they
nurturing.
got nurtured. Yeah, that's what happened. So there's one particular person, they said, I'm not going to buy this thing. I got to hire a webmaster. I got to do blah, 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 blah. Right. And maybe they're sincere, maybe not. They actually were. But what ends up happening is 2 months in, they were ready to go. And so if you're not nurturing them, they might restart the sales process, but not necessarily with you. It might be with another company, or maybe another company is nurturing them and you're not.
Yeah.
And
A company doing it better.
doing it better. They're top of mind. So in this particular case, we have a screenshot of, um, we were nurturing them, and they got an email once a month, just being helpful, not salesy, not braggy, not buy this thing now
Check
or
out
else
this
you'll die.
webinar.
Yeah, I was like, hey,
Yeah.
you got this really cool quote or case study you might be interested in. Check it out. And the prospect actually replied to it and said, I'm ready. Let's do this thing. Let's re-engage. And that was like,
I just fell into some money. Let's do this.
yeah, it just
Those are
got
the
me
best
Sunday.
emails.
They are the best emails. Absolutely.
And sales, honestly, I bring up that example all the time with clients. I mean, I'm like,
Yeah.
listen, because that sales sees it. And like this email that we have, the example, we should throw it out there on social when this comes out. Like, I mean, people send an email that say, hey, actually, I know I told you 6 months, but we just got budget. We
Yeah.
just got this new amount of money. So they're literally saying, dear sales guy, just fell into some money. Hope we can talk soon. I mean, that is the best email. And it's just the exact example of why nurturing is important and why it's not just for marketing. Because sure, marketing was part of that. They maybe set up an engagement program and triggered that email, but that was the thought of everyone, a mutual support of the idea of let's generate some revenue for our company. And there we go.
Right. And people say, the first, and there's actual percentages. I could make one up, and then people just have to call me out on it. But the majority of the time, the first salesperson to call you wins. They're the one you go with, because they can build all the value. They can frame everything, all how you're shopping toward them. They can put little landmines in the way for all the competition. They might call 4 days later, or a week later, or a month later, or 6 months later, right? So they can put all these landmines out there for you. So it restarts the process. Hey, call me in 6 months. 2 months later, they're ready to do sales again. You're top of mind. You're number one in that list. And they're going to reach out to you first because you sent the email. And that's what happened. This person responded to a nurture email because it was personalized.
Totally.
Tell me about the personalization, because I've seen a lot of that. I've seen people do it right. I've seen people do it wrong. I get emails from people overseas offering me services, and they
Calling you
try.
a female instead of a male, calling you Andrew instead of Andrea.
Yes, Mister. I think some people have me down as Curtis. Thank you. That's not actually me.
Dear Curtis.
Yes, I'm like,
Yeah, I
you
mean,
talking to me?
yeah, personalization and segmentation is hard because again, this is one of
Yeah.
those topics that if you were to Google it, there are so many conflicting things out there. Some people say segmentation is it. You should personalize everything. It's the
Right.
butter to anything that you need, right? And everyone likes butter. And then some people are like
Butter.
debunking the myth. They're saying, "Oh yeah, there you go." But like they're debunking the myth and saying that actually it doesn't matter. You don't need to personalize things. You don't need to
Right.
do targeted marketing. And I would say I fall more towards the segmentation and personalization than I do the not at all.
Yeah.
But I do think there's such thing as too much, right? If you don't think you have the data, please do not call out the name, the job title, the eye color within the content of your email. Because
The
chances are,
gender.
unless you have a full team dedicated to updating your database, that's ballsy. You shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But like if you want to really do well with nurturing, you should be considering like what do my buyers care about? Like, am
Yeah.
I writing this for them or is it about me? And it goes back to what we said about newsletters are traditionally about you and not about your buyer. And that's
Mm.
where they're fundamentally wrong. So I would say, as far as personalization, keep it realistic. Realistic is always my term when it comes to nurturing. You don't have to create the most sophisticated nurture in the world. You also don't need to make it the most specialized, finite, tiny group so that you have 45 versions of the same email. I
Right.
think general categories are fine. Categories of buyers based on similar pain points are fine. Because
Yeah.
again, usually those emails are simple like, hey, thought you'd really enjoy this webinar we did on this topic. If you have a second, check it out. Hope things are going well. Signed sales rep with their signature and
Yeah.
everything. Like those are not super personalized, but they're effective. So I always say just be realistic. Start small, get fancier as you go if you really want to, but maybe you'll find out that you're just as successful being kind of personal.
Yeah. Not like not going crazy with it. Like that's not going to be the sole reason your thing is successful. But
Exactly.
it helps. It helps with catching that short attention span at the beginning, and then hopefully your content engages them for the long term. But yeah, that you can do it right, you can do it wrong. I think what ends up happening is people blend the two.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like decide what you're going to be. Are you going to make this email personal, or are you going to make this email like not personal or corporate? And
Right.
each one has its place. A/B test it. I don't care. Like find out what works for you. But I think when you blend things, it's almost like the idea of trying to be everything for everyone, or
Right.
being generic, or being like lukewarm soup or lukewarm tea. Like, are you hot or are you cold? Coffee, anything. Like, I want the real thing. And so, I've tried to describe. I like drawing this on a white erase, dry erase board, where there's like a big wall, like a big castle wall between the personal side and the corporate side. And one of the biggest examples, and I see this all the time, is the company logo. Like, how many
Mm-hmm.
times have you sent a personal email to someone or received one that was actually personally written, where it had their logo at the top, like a letterhead? Like, I'll
Like a
say,
gorgeous email from a sales rep.
yeah, a
It's never
gorgeous
happened.
email. Yeah. How many times does a sales rep actually capitalize the letters in their subject line? Never. Right? So I think we can get kind of fancy, and marketing can get a little wordy sometimes, and stuff a whole bunch of keywords into that subject line. And because we may have heard some stats on previous podcasts where if you include the date, or you include a webinar or a timely thing that's going to go away, you're going to get 4% more this or that clicks and this and that. But then you lose the element of that personalization. And I think there's some magic to the personalization that Pardot or marketing automation tool can do, because
Totally.
back to our earlier conversation where people are getting rid of newsletters. Okay, that's already been gotten rid of. But now they're going through and they're like, oh, look, it's got a logo at the top, and it's saying, dear Christopher, dear Mrs. Christopher, space, comma, all messed up, and you're just like,
Dear
delete.
Mr. Andrew.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mr.
thanks.
Andrew, bye. But then you have one that's like a little short one that looks like someone's written you an email. It's just offering a little webinar, something helpful. it's not being salesy. And you're like, oh, that's really cool. Let me check that out. Maybe I want to add that to my reading list or watching list for later. And those things can be really powerful. And you mentioned earlier the subject line at the bottom. I think that's so important. Make your email, if you're going to go the personal route, make the email look like someone hit compose new message. And that's the rule. Like
Right.
compose new, what do you see? You see a footer. And if your footer has or a signature line, if that has a little graphic in it, that's cool. Ours do. But you don't have like 9 paragraphs. Nobody, we're not like an Elizabethan era where we're writing
Right. And no
sonnets to each
sales guy finds something like cordially yours or
Yeah,
something like, what?
cordially
No.
yours.
They say cheers, comma,
Cheers,
in
mate.
lowercase cheers. And it's never like sincerely Dr. David, blah, 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 blah. Like,
Yes.
no, like you're ruining your whole purpose of being. I agree. It's funny. I
Yeah.
could go off on like just silly things you see in emails that
Right.
obviously we're jaded. We do this every day. So when we get emails, we're a little bit critical, but
Super
come on.
critical. I love
Maybe.
judging emails. Yeah, if you spam me, you are in a judgment happening zone. It is
Don't spam me and then don't respond to me on Twitter.
it is
That's my thing.
it is happening. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Well, it's like you mentioned earlier, like a short, little, quick, the word pithy comes to mind, like a
Mm-hmm.
paragraph and a half, or like 3 sentences, you're gonna get more impact out of your gigantic email. That gigantic email, maybe you do got to get that information across. Maybe it's about GDPR, something crazy it's going to go down. Put that in the other email. Put that in the branded
Right.
company team-based email where you're not trying to say it's from a person. And when you properly separate them, we've seen so many clients get better results from both of them
And
because
you
they're
can
not
send more
blending.
emails if they're different, right?
That's
If like
another good
one of
point.
your emails is like templated and gorgeous. We're talking top of the line.
Gorgeous.
You look at Pinterest best email templates ever. It's there. It looks gorgeous. Those emails come from your company name. It's, everyone expects those emails and there's value in those emails.
Yeah.
They're often promotions or release
Right.
notes or features and functionality that people might know about. But if you have those and an email that comes from a salesperson with the signature box at the bottom, that's true nurturing because you actually have more interactions there. Because you
Right.
can't send 5 marketed emails per week without people saying enough's enough.
Right.
But if you kind of split the difference and you have a little bit of both, I mean, you're also giving yourselves more opportunity to be in their face, to be top of
Yeah, that's a good point. It's almost like they have like a threshold where
mind.
if you get to this point on me, I don't care who, and this happens, this is me. If you send me that many emails, I'm not sure what that is. I'm doing like a visual for those listening.
Depends on who you are, what your audience is, for
It
sure.
depends. But for me, I have this thing where there's been like nonprofits that I support. There's been companies I really care about. I'm a huge fan of their product, but if I get past that threshold of emails and they're not delivering tremendous value, I'm like, unsubscribe, I'm out.
And maybe
And
they offer really great content.
they
Maybe they're
might,
known for
they
really good.
might.
I'm thinking of a specific one in mind, but really great content. And if they send it to you too often, like I know I can go to their website and go to resources content and get it there. I
Interesting.
don't need to get the emails all the time because I don't need 5,
I don't,
7, 10 a week.
yeah, you start trimming those things up when you realize your inbox refreshes and you have 30 more things to go check off. You're like, I don't need you. You keep coming in. Sometimes once a week is too much. But
Right.
everyone's got their threshold. But the idea is, oh, you mentioned the personal versus the, I've seen it work really well, the branded corporate email for webinars, like something,
Mm-hmm.
a webinar or like a dinner invite. You're in this, maybe you say cordially in this email, you're invited to this amazing thing. Because it just says that event has more production value. Like
Totally.
this is a thing. This isn't
We're
just
spending money on it.
yeah, this is not a tweet up. We're actually we're gonna have a stage and there's gonna be popcorn,
Happy
whatever.
hour, the whole
There's
thing.
gonna be you know what? Branded emails signal happy hour. It's probably
Yeah. Just be prepared to foot the bill. Correct.
True. So you've got that, and then clients have then built a little automated follow-up where a day, 2 days later, there's a personal note saying, hey, I put you on the invite list for that event. Did you get it? If not, here's the link again. Let me know if you can make it. And we found
Exactly.
it's crazy. People respond really well to that, but then they'll also go back to the original registration and they'll click through on that too. So it's like all the ships rise at that point.
Yeah, and you'd be surprised. That actually reminds me, I went on an onsite once and they were like, the events they had for people were like box seats at NFL games. And I was like, first of all,
Hell
I want to be on
yeah.
that invite list. So I was
Yeah.
like,
Are we a
interesting.
target customer for them?
I know. I was no, but I was trying to still. I was like, to really properly research this, I should
Yes.
probably go to one of these events. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes.
But that's exactly it. They were astonished, and they were surprised too that they didn't have more people clicking RSVP like as soon as they saw it, because it literally was like box seat to insert your favorite NFL team here. And
Wow.
until they incorporated some sort of personal, like, hey, did you get that? Like, it's limited invitees. Make sure that you get on that list before it's closed. They, people weren't like RSVPing, or this blew me away. People would RSVP and then not show up. And I'm
Oh,
like, first of
people.
all, I'll take those spots. You just let me
Yeah.
know. But
Jeez.
like, nurturing exactly then was perfect for them, because that's all they needed to do to really make people realize that someone's banking on them being there.
Right. Man. Well, this is great. We could literally geek out on this stuff, and
We
we
could.
probably do. Next time we're in the same geo, we just need to get some drinks and then share war stories.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll just throw that on Periscope or something. But it'll be fun, just because these stories are. It's fascinating. Everyone's going through about the same thing. You know,
Right.
it's not like we're surprised anymore. Much. It's kind of like everyone. They're not aligned, and they're not aligned for the same reasons, or one of, or three of 8 reasons, and then you fix it, and they see the light, and then they're aligned, and it's awesome. So, who are you, Andrea? I know we
I
worked
don't
together,
really
but
know.
it wasn't until doing some research for the show I found out some really fantastic things about your
Oh gosh.
but like, go back, take us back. Like, how did you end up in this thing? Have you always had a marketing sense? Did you always want to be in marketing, or what's your
You
thing?
know, what's funny is I actually studied agriculture economics. So no, the
Yeah.
answer is no. I
Wow.
didn't start out in marketing. I think I took an ag marketing class, which is, I think we've had a few ag clients here or there, but nothing compared to what I was studying. And yeah, no, I fell upon it and fell in love with it. And then next thing I know, I'm working for you after you met me at that conference, and we tweeted back and forth for a few months. So
Jeez.
it's
Well, we have to
weird.
talk about that, but take me back to you're actually you're from Kansas.
I am from Kansas,
Okay. And
right smack dab
naturally
in the middle.
farming was going to be your thing.
Yeah, just something with food. I think I studied agriculture economics.
I hear you
First
on
of all, I
that.
love food. Number
Hell
one,
yeah.
food. Shout out to food. Any food
Shout out to
listening?
food. We're going to tag you after the show.
Yes, food. Um, but I mean, really, it was, first of all, you're in Kansas. The best degree you can get is an agriculture economics degree. At least I went to
Really?
Kansas
Okay.
State University, one of the best ag schools out there. I'm biased, obviously. But for me, it was really like I was always fascinated not only with food, but with people's decisions around food, because food is something you have to have, right?
Right.
So what's really interesting is why people make certain decisions about what they do eat, what they don't eat, right? And especially now, like even since I studied it, people have so many different diets and regimens and things that they believe
Yeah.
in, don't believe in, related to food and how it's
Mm.
grown. And there wasn't even that interest when I studied it, to be honest. And I think when I think back to why did I end up where I am now, I think it has
Yeah.
something to do with I was always just super intrigued by like behavioral economics. Why do people make the decisions they do, especially when it's something that they have to have? They have to have food.
Right. So it's not
So
like, should
why?
I get food or not? You're going to get
Right.
it. But then it's like, which one do you do?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
like what makes people like, what's the trigger, right? And so what I essentially wrote as a thesis for grad school is what is, and it was like a mathematical thing, right? Because that's grad school, it's math. So luckily now I don't have to do as much math with
Grad
the
school
same
was math?
concept.
Oh, economics. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Makes
I mean,
sense.
lots of equations, but it's the equation of like multi-touch attribution, right? Of
Sure.
like all of these things happen as you're making buying decisions.
Yep.
Which one is the one that's like, that's it, I'm doing it, I am now dairy free, and I am only buying soy milk, and then the soy milk industry like
Right.
skyrockets, right? So I think it, looking back, it all definitely was marketing. And it's like a lot of the same concepts that I use with clients. And we're talking about tracking attribution and buyer behavior. It's all the same thing. But yeah, it started with ag. Who knew?
I guess we could really just dive into that, because I think about even like organic. That used to
Yeah.
be a thing reserved for Whole Foods. But
Yeah.
now every store has that offering,
Aldi's, man.
you know?
Aldi's gets it going. Costco. People love organic and people are switching crazy to Costco because of their organic selection. Yeah.
Right. Now I recall you saying earlier that did you not know what you wanted to do when you first went to school, or you took like a summer off, or how did that go down?
Yeah. So my mom this is way back, right?
Yeah, back in the
You're
day.
deciding back in the day, you're
Andrew,
deciding
this is
where
like
do I want
6
to go
years
to.
ago. Seriously.
No, not 6 years ago. Well, yes. I mean, yes, definitely
Well,
6 years
yes.
ago. I'm ripe age of 25. No.
Yes.
I don't know. It was my mom did the whole classic mom thing where she's trying to save me money, but I'm a kid who's not going to listen to it no matter what. So she said, here are your options. You stay here in Kansas, which sounded just devastating to any 17, 18-year-old at the time. And
Right.
you go to an in-state school, but I'll let you study abroad, or I'll let you toy with the idea of going out of state to college. And she gave me that kind of ultimatum. I can pick one or the other. So I went the study abroad route, actually,
Yeah.
which I didn't think, like, up to the second, I was like, for sure getting out of here. And now I like don't live in Kansas anymore and I miss it and think about it fondly all the time. But
Okay. Yeah.
I ended up studying abroad for a year and a half in Argentina and just
Argentina.
figuring it out. See,
What was
yeah.
that like? Because I see documentaries about Patagonia and
Oh yeah.
some of those
That's where I was. I was
mountains
smack
and
dab in the middle of the Patagonia.
really
It was
for a
awesome.
year.
For like a year and some
Wow.
change. Yeah.
What
Learned
was that
Spanish,
even
lost a
like?
lot of it.
Okay, cool. You're our translator
Honestly,
moving forward.
right. See,
See,
I don't know, like, when I was 18, 17, 18.
right.
So
You
like
kind of just
at the
came to
time it
live.
was more figuring out myself. And
Yeah.
because it is like a brand new language, I learned Spanish on the spot. I had taken Spanish for 4 years and then I get
Right.
there and I don't remember a lick of it.
It's like you have to pay
Um,
attention because you're like, I'm never gonna use this, and then it's like, oh, I'm in Argentina.
well, and even I was like, I'm good at Spanish, but you get there and they're not slowing down a
No,
whole lot
they're
for you.
fast. Yeah.
So you go buy like back then it was like a calling card or like
Yeah.
candy, and it was like an actual experience. Nothing like all of the play or role playing that you did in Spanish class. But yeah, I got
Sure.
there. It was a lot of just figuring myself out, a lot of like time with my own thoughts, and a lot of not necessarily studying. I was supposed to be there studying, but I did a lot more like social studying of just
Yes.
learning how to like adapt to your environment and meet people, even if that means learning a new language.
Saying they know how to throw down in Argentina.
I mean, yes, they go out. You go out at like 11 o'clock at night, and I remember I'd come back
Wow.
at 6 a.m. the next morning and have to drink mate, which is like their tea that they drink with the straw. You've probably seen it in whatever documentaries, with
Ate.
my host family
Yeah.
before I could go back to sleep. So that was the life, the boliche life.
Boliche life. It'd be a great name for this episode. No one would know what it means, and it'd be so cool. They'd have to wait till the end of the podcast to know what we're talking about. But
Yeah, we don't have any boliche clients, so I don't
we
know if
could
we
get
can.
some.
That would be too fun.
I keep asking sales, like, get us some Hawaiian clients that need multiple on-sites.
Right, right. I feel
Oh
like
man.
anytime I get an on-site in winter, I'm going to like cold New York, Maine,
New Jersey.
yeah, New Jersey, Michigan, and I'm like, wait, guys, sell those later in the year when it's gorgeous there, and then
Yes.
let's sell some in my neck of the woods for the rest of the year.
Right. Like, let's have the Super Bowl in Minneapolis in the middle of the summertime when everything's amazing.
Oh yeah, there you go.
That would be better. But take me back to economics, because when I learned this about you, um, economics there's some good stuff in there. That's like foundational, and it's these kind of things that can really shape your later experiences. So, ag marketing, but tell me about you studied math, you studied theory. What kind of things that come to mind that you've drawn on, as you've been,
I
marketing
mean,
revenue creating?
definitely, like, so you think of economics, you think supply and demand, right? And ag
Right.
economics is even a little bit more microeconomics than your
Interesting.
traditional supply and demand graphs. And you have to find, you know, all of these points along a lot of axes. I definitely know how to do all that, although I'm probably a little bit rusty. I think the biggest thing though is, again, it comes down to like buying decisions. Like,
Right.
at what point, like, I need said product or service.
Yep.
These are my options: supply. right? These
Yeah.
are like all of the different options I have. There's obviously price and hitting equilibriums, and there's all sorts of theories that are involved when you study economics, but it
Sure.
really comes down to when do they meet, and like what outside influence affects where they meet and what
Right.
decision is made by the buyer. So I think anytime I go and I talk to, and I have to admit, like, because I dealt with so many scenarios specific to ag and food and even some manufacturing and things like
Sure.
that, those are really interesting to me because, again, and it is a lot of B2B, just to be honest, because that's when you start talking about raw goods and they turn into intermediate goods. And I mean,
Yeah.
it definitely plays in, and they're all just trying to get a grasp on what their market looks like, right? So
Huh.
market environments, which is key economics, where they are, what their pitching point is or their niche, and how they can kind of wrangle the supply and demand of their own little market. So I think
Interesting.
I think of it all the time, but any scenarios that we have with ag clients or manufacturing clients, I always just like really geek out about because lots of case studies in my past about those
Yeah.
exact scenarios.
But this is interesting. It sounds like you're more perceptive of outside influences because
Hmm.
whether it's agriculture or any market, you have the supply and demand, you have the price going up and down, ideally based on those factors. But then there's other things.
Hmm.
There's a tariff on this particular
Yeah.
product over in China. Now the U.S. has one on this product, and now our prices
And ag
has
commodity
changed.
pricing, they're set by an outside,
Yeah,
factor as well. But I think it's just, I mean, it's definitely applicable to anything you do. How I got, because I could have taken so many more classes in ag marketing and just marketing in general. And I honestly only took a couple. I had to take like a farm machinery class, which is hilarious because I don't have like an official born on a farm background. But I
right.
had to take a class where I had to identify different pieces of farm machinery. That was terrible. But I took that over some marketing classes, but I still think that it was
What was this
really
like?
helpful.
Identifying photos? Is this like the class they
And
send the football
everybody else
team
was
to?
great at it because they
Where it's
had them
like
like in their backyards or pastures,
tractor. That's a
but
that's a
way more intense, like
combine.
combine, but then type of combine, like,
Ooh.
and
There's
everybody
types of
else,
combines?
again,
Do you remember any?
they're no,
Put you
hopefully
on the
my my ag machinery teacher is listening. I don't know, I doubt it, but
spot. Sure she
that
is.
was a while ago. But all of these other students, though, they didn't have to study because they're like, oh yeah, I bought one last week, and I'm like,
Oh no, yeah.
and I'm like, okay, this one has a little twirly thing at the front.
Right. That's like taking Spanish if that's your native language. It's like that's not
Right.
fair.
Right.
Oh wow. That's really interesting. And then we met at a conference.
Yeah,
Was
so
that
I was doing
connections?
Pardot right out of college, and I
Yeah.
remember you were on Twitter geeking out over Pardot too, and I was
Totally.
just excited about Pardot, setting it up for the company I work for, and just really nerding out about it. And so we had exchanged tweets, happened to be at the one of the Pardot conferences in
Yeah.
Atlanta, and
Oh, was it
met up.
Atlanta?
And it was in Atlanta. Yeah, it was
It
like the
wasn't like connections or
pre.
something?
It was Connections. Yeah,
Was it? Okay.
it was before the year before Exact Target bought Pardot.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was in the W Hotel in Atlanta. I remember that. I think,
Oh,
wasn't it?
was
Yeah.
it
Or
there?
was that Connections? It might
Man,
have
we're getting
been.
old. We should go
I
look
know.
this up.
Well, and then there was the year that we met at Imagine Dragons. That was when we were in
That
Indianapolis
was
for the
connections in
exact.
Indy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
It's wild.
Great
So yeah, then
conference.
you're like, I have this job that seems kind of too good to be true. You can work from the beach, yada yada yada,
Right.
and the rest is history.
Right. Don't worry, I'm not a psycho. We are really building something here. And most of the
Trust
saying,
me on this
look,
one.
I love Pardot, you love Pardot. Let's just make this happen, you know?
Right. And I remember my boss at the time was there with me, and you were joking with him like, I'm gonna make her come work for me. And he was like, ha ha, you better not. The next thing I know, I'm like, here's my 2 weeks
I do that every
notice.
now and then. It gets me in trouble.
No, it's good. It worked out though. We did
Yeah,
that. We
it
got some
really
great
did.
people. I
Really
was on the
did.
ground floor.
And you moved to Charleston.
I did. So
Tell
I
me
took you
about
up on
that.
the beach offer.
Because I know you moved, and all the insurance companies and whoever were saying, "Is it okay that she moves?" I'm like, "Yeah, totally."
I know. You had to like do a lot of signing
Sign
and
paperwork.
officiating. Well, I mean, I took you up on it. So, Casey had said, if you come work for me, you can work from the beach. And I'm here in
Yeah.
Kansas, middle of nowhere, very far from the beach, as far from the beach on either side as you could be.
Right.
Had family this direction, like not in Charleston, but Charleston was always that place. I was like, I want to move there.
Yeah, it's
So
classy.
about 6 months into working for you, and I realized, oh, this is a legit job. He has a lot of work for me to do. I
Still
went for it.
do.
Yep. So yeah, I've never looked back.
Was
I love
that the year,
Kansas.
was that the
But
year that had that crazy snow in Kansas? 'Cause I think I traveled there
probably.
a couple times, and it was like the craziness past the car and stuff. And
Well, we have a lot of ice in Kansas. So I
oh, is it
remember
nice?
like
Oh, okay.
working from home, obviously you don't have to go out in it as much, but I
Yeah.
remember I started working, I got a dog because that's what you do when you work from home. You're like, I can handle
Totally.
another dog.
It's like
So
a
I got a
starter kit.
dog,
Yeah.
but then this dog would not go to the bathroom and outside because it was cold because it's a wiener dog. So it's low to the ground, snow doesn't work. But
What do you do?
you have to dig up. So that's exactly it. You have to dig up like a little patch for them to do their business.
Jeez.
But I remember it's so icy there that like you have to do that before it ices over. So the snow's it's not any Boston snow like I've seen
Right.
via Skype in your backgrounds occasionally.
Yeah.
Like it's ice. So I remember I like couldn't get through the ice to get my dog little potty area, my brand new wiener dog puppy that's like an inch from the ground.
Right.
And I was like, I'm moving. I'm going to do this. Next thing I know, we made it happen.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love that you guys just picked up and were like, we're seeking warmer climates. And Charleston's classy. They've got, great restaurants. You've got ocean,
Oh
warmer
yeah,
weather. I mean, the list goes on and
much
on.
warmer. It looks pretty nice out the window now. It's
Is
not
it hot?
snowing.
How is it down there? Is pretty nice
It's
now?
84 today.
Yeah, people in Minnesota, Michigan are like, I hate you.
I know we have people on the team in Canada and Michigan,
Yeah,
and we
Michigan.
try to not bring it up too much.
Right. It's funny at first, but then it's just like I don't want to hear. But
Right.
I'm in New Hampshire, and it's nice. It's actually kind of hot today. Yeah, I was in one of those the foyer between the inside, and I was getting kind of cold inside. Actually, this weird stuff happens. I get cold, and it's getting warm. Maybe I'm sick. I don't know. But I was walking to that foyer, and it was really hot in there. And I was like, "Ooh, this is nice. I'm kind of warming up here." And then I opened the door, and the temperature didn't change, and I was like, "This is cool." Or hot, really. This is great. It was nice and warm, finally. And we don't take this for granted up here because, I'm sure in 2 weeks it'll be too hot. But right now it's pretty nice.
Right. That's like us in the mugginess, right? Like our water temperature just hit 70, and after 70 degrees, it gets muggy here. That's why we can't cool down. Like
Oh,
that's why you hear about it being humid in the south because our water temperature is so high and we're so close to the coast. So things I didn't know before I moved here from Kansas. So
right.
there you go. Little knowledge, some little
But
ocean
you'd
knowledge
still
for
do
you.
it. Would you still do it again?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, seems like a good move. And now you have 2 dogs.
2 dogs.
How do you keep track?
They're very easy. They're small. They don't go far.
Small. They don't go far. They know who feeds them.
Right. They're a little bit needy. They're my coworkers.
Oh
They don't
man.
do much though. They're not on the payroll.
Right. Right. Crazy. And they're like your fans. And do they watch football with you? Because I know you're a huge football fan from
Yes,
college.
they watch football. We're big football fans. They love going to the beach. In fact, they probably hear me saying that right now and are stirring about.
Beach, beach,
Um,
beach,
oh,
bacon,
it's their
beach.
favorite place. So, oh yeah, we've got it. We've got the life down here. It's pretty nice.
That is awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I know you're so busy, but I wanted to, share some of the strategy that you obviously share with people on sites and the teams you work with, mapping out their process. It's really cool. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, this is great. Thanks for having me. I'm finally part of the world renowned. Is that what we're saying? World renowned
I like it.
hardcore marketing show.
Hardcore marketing. Hey, what are some links where people can connect with you? What are some good places to connect?
Twitter, probably
Yeah,
my best.
totally.
My handle is Dre Frase,
Yeah.
DREFRAZ. Very sophisticated,
Cool.
obviously.
Put that in the show
That's
notes. It's very hip.
yeah, that's about it. I mean, Twitter's my place.
Twitter's your
Find me there.
place. LinkedIn, cool. As long as they say who they
LinkedIn,
are,
yeah.
where they heard about you. Don't be
I'm
a
not as good at
weirdo.
LinkedIn, but I'll accept it when I get the little badge notification on my phone for sure.
Right. Totally, totally. So stick to Twitter. Awesome.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. It's been fun.
Yeah.
Been a
It
blast.
has been fun.
We'll do more of these. We'll have a war story session where we just tell crazy stories.
We should start collecting like some myths
We
as we
should.
go. We'll make a
Myth,
little scrapbook.
myth collection, and then smash them all at once.
And it won't be like a roast. It'll be like a nicer version of a roast, but really like what not to do.
Yeah, a roast, a marketing roast. That'd be pretty cool. Next on the Hardcore Marketing Show. Well, hey, everyone, thanks for listening. This has been the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will catch you all next time.